Welcome to Despicable Main Deep Dives. Today on the show,
Today, we're diving deep, really deep, into a digital battlefield. It's one that's been absolutely shrouded in headlines, claims, counterclaims, just a swirling fog.
it really is a fog, isn't it? Hard to see through.
Totally. And we've got this stack of sources, really fascinating stuff about the cyber conflict between Iran and Israel. But one question keeps coming up from you, our listener, actually.
Oh yeah, what's that?
It's this. Where is this information Iran hacked located? The people want to see it. It's such a fundamental question, it gets right to the heart of all this modern InfoWar stuff.
It absolutely does. It's a critical question. Because look, the recent escalation between Iran and Israel, it hasn't just been missiles and drones, has it? It's expanded dramatically into cyberspace. That's become a crucial front, maybe even the crucial front sometimes, and it's often unseen. So our deep dive today, based on these sources, it reveals this really complex, layered conflict. You've got state-sponsored cyber attacks, proper serious stuff. Then you've got hacktivist groups making noise, disrupting things. And increasingly, you've got these really sophisticated disinformation campaigns.
Driven by AI now, too, right? That's a whole other layer.
Exactly, fueled by rapidly advancing AI tech.
Right.
So our mission today, as we try to navigate this digital maze, is to help you understand not just what kind of information might have been hacked or manipulated,
Yeah.
but also precisely where it is, or maybe more importantly sometimes, why it might not be publicly visible. Or maybe, just maybe, it doesn't even genuinely exist in the first place.
Exactly. So, okay, what does this all mean for us, for you listening? Trying to stay informed when there's just so much stuff flying around, and not all of it's true.
Yeah.
We'll be your guides through this digital quagmire. We'll try to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, help you sort the signal from the noise. This is where it starts to get really interesting, peeling back those layers.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start by unpacking this with a claim that really grabbed headlines. Honestly, it was everywhere for a bit, and it definitely fed into that listener question about seeing the hack data.
I think I know the one you mean.
Yeah, our sources point to these pretty sensational reports from a website, amg-news.com. And they alleged this massive cyber attack, their words, by Iranian state hackers targeting Mossad, like their internal systems.
Mossad, yeah. The Israeli intelligence agency. Big target.
Huge target. And this supposedly happened just days before Israel officially declared war. The timing itself was part of the story.
Right. The narrative was that this was a preemptive strike. Okay, so what did amg-news.com actually claim was taken?
Well, according to them, Iranian hackers successfully grabbed, get this, over 3 terabytes of classified Israeli intelligence.
3 terabytes. That is an enormous amount of data.
It's specially classified intelligence.
Exactly. And they didn't just say intelligence. They specifically called it kompromat, that Russian term for compromising material used for blackmail. Right, kompromat. That immediately signals intent, not just espionage, but leverage, blackmail.
Precisely. And the alleged contents list. It reads like something straight out of a spy thriller script, seriously designed to shock.
Okay, lay it on us. What did they claim was in there?
Okay, so the site claimed the haul included blackmail archives, details of covert surveillance programs operating on foreign soil. So spying abroad.
Standard intelligence stuff, maybe, but still sensitive?
Yeah, but then it gets wilder. They claimed info on Mossad operations embedded within U.S. intelligence and politics.
Oh, okay. That touches a nerve, alleging interference or deep links within a major ally.
Right. And then psychological profiling databases of global leaders, like detailed files on presidents, prime ministers.
Wow, okay. That's aiming high.
And then the part that probably caused the most outrage, or was designed to, the site asserted the hack uncovered VIP-level pedophilia files.
Whoa, okay. That is extremely inflammatory.
Yeah, extremely. They claimed these files had names, locations, methods, even media, and that this was supposedly used to control high-ranking officials, influence global policies, the whole hidden levers of power narrative.
Right, hitting all the classic conspiracy theory tropes, but tying it directly to this alleged hack.
Exactly. The article framed the whole thing as this preemptive information strike by Iran, timed perfectly to destabilize Israel's leadership, expose the supposed hidden global order. It even suggested Western intelligence agencies totally panicked, not just for Israel, but because, quote, their own secrets were inside these alleged files, too.
Okay, that's a blockbuster claim, designed for maximum impact, maximum sharing online.
Totally. So if and it's a big if this is true, the immediate question from everyone, especially our listener, is, okay, where is it then? Can we see it? Is it out there? This specific article from amg-news.com, it actually says, quite dramatically, the files are out. The silence is broken.
The files are out. Just like that.
Just like that. But is that really the case? Does this, colossal 3 terabytes of super sensitive compromat actually exist somewhere we can find it? Is its location a real place online? Or is that claim just another layer of the whole story?
And that is the absolute crux of it, isn't it? This is where we have to slam on the brakes and engage critical thinking. How reliable is this source, amg-news.com?
Right. What do our sources say about them?
Well, our research paints a pretty clear picture, and it immediately throws up huge red flags.
Right.
The sources consistently describe amg-news.com's content as using highly sensationalized language. The kind of breathless conspiratorial tone you find on, well, conspiracy theory websites.
Okay, so not exactly Reuters.
Not even close. In fact, it's explicitly compared to Veterans Today. Now, for listeners who aren't familiar, Veterans Today is widely known as an American anti-Semitic and conspiracy theory website. It has a long documented history of publishing really wild conspiracy theories and completely false headlines.
Right, I've heard of them. Not exactly known for journalistic rigor.
Not at all. And here's the kicker. The chairman of Veterans Today himself, a guy named Gordon Duff, actually admitted in a public interview, and this is just stunning, he said, quote, "About 30% of what's written on Veterans Today is patently false. About 40% of what I write is at least purposely, partially false. Because if I didn't write false information, I wouldn't be alive."
Wait. He admitted to publishing false information on purpose?
Admitted it.
Yeah.
Openly. He framed it partly as protecting sources, maybe, but also implied it was just part of the game, maybe even geopolitical maneuvering. It's a public admission of deliberate intent to mislead. Not just getting things wrong, but actively putting out falsehoods.
Wow. That's beyond just bias. That's actively creating fake news. So if amg-news.com is being compared to that, and the head of that says a huge chunk of their stuff is deliberately false.
Precisely. It tells you a lot about the neighborhood amg-news.com lives in.
So that's a truly unsettling disclaimer, coming straight from someone linked to a similar outlet. Given that kind of blatant disregard for truth, how fast does this stuff spread? And why does it stick around even after it's debunked? More importantly, for our listener trying to find these supposed Mossad files, what does this admission mean for that specific claim? Where are the files really?
It means that while the claim itself is incredibly sensational, designed to grab eyeballs, clicks, shares, provoke outrage, it should be viewed with significant skepticism. That's putting it mildly. Frankly, you should probably just reject it outright.
Okay.
Leading analysts and our own research based on these sources explicitly state these kinds of claims are likely part of the broader disinformation and psychological warfare efforts that characterize the conflict. It's psyops.
Psychological warfare. Okay.
So when you ask where is this information located, for this specific high-profile Mossad claim, its main location seems to be squarely within this carefully built network of really dubious, highly sensationalized, and almost certainly state-influenced propaganda outlets.
So it's not on a server waiting to be downloaded.
No. Forget finding a download link. It's less about a physical or even a digital place where you can find verifiable hacked files. It's much more about a digital space, these websites, fringe blogs, certain social media channels, where false narratives are deliberately planted and circulated.
To do what?
To mislead, to spread panic, to influence public perception, maybe drive wedges between allies, discredit institutions like Mossad. The location isn't a data dump you can browse through. The location is the echo chamber itself, where these stories get amplified, repeated, maybe woven into bigger conspiracy theories, and eventually, for some people, they just become truth.
So the goal isn't transparency, showing the people the files. The goal is the opposite.
Exactly. Obfuscation, narrative control, confusion, making it harder for you to know what to believe. So for that specific Mossad claim, the answer to where is it is likely nowhere real. It exists primarily as a weaponized narrative.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We've dissected that big, sensational Mossad claim, and it seems the location of that information is really just in the propaganda machine, designed to shape minds, not review truths.
Right.
But let's pivot now. Let's move from those, phantom punches to the actual undeniable hits in this digital fight. What are the real cyber attacks, the ones that left verifiable marks? And where can we actually trace their effects, what really happened, and where is the impact of that information located?
Okay, yeah, because there have definitely been real attacks with real consequences. And what's fascinating here is seeing Israel's offensive cyber capability in action. It's formidable,
Yeah.
and they haven't been shy about using it, or at least groups associated with them haven't.
You mean like predatory sparrow?
Exactly. The pro-Israeli hacking group Predatory Sparrow. Now, it's widely considered a front, likely linked to Israeli state cyber units,
Yeah.
and they've claimed some pretty significant disruptive strikes against Iran. Well, for instance, on June 17th, they reportedly infiltrated Iran's state-owned bank SEPA. This isn't some small local bank. It's one of the largest, most critical financial institutions in Iran. Handles government stuff, military finances. It's major.
Okay, so they got into bank SEPA. Did they steal money, leak customer data? What was the information angle?
This is interesting. Here, the information wasn't stolen to be released publicly, like in the fake Mossad claim. Instead, it was apparently destroyed.
Destroyed.
Yes, Predatory Sparrow explicitly claimed they destroyed the bank's data. Now, what that likely means is they wiped critical databases, maybe encrypted essential files, and threw away the key, or just rendered the core banking systems completely unusable. Total disruption.
So what was the effect?
Widespread service outages. It crippled the bank's operations. We're talking customers unable to access their accounts, couldn't withdraw cash, couldn't use their bank cards. Imagine the chaos, the frustration.
Wow. So the impact was directly on ordinary people.
Absolutely. Millions of Iranian citizens felt that directly, immediately. It shows a very tangible, real-world consequence. So in this case, the location of the information's impact wasn't a leak site. It was the absence of accessible financial data. The location was the crippled banking infrastructure itself, and the impact radiated out into the daily lives and financial stability of countless people. A clear act of economic disruption using cyber means.
Okay, so that was a major blow to Iran's state banking system. Did Predatory Sparrow stop there, or did they keep going? What was next?
Oh, they kept going. They were quite active around that time. Just a day later, actually, Predatory Sparrow announced they had breached Nobitex.
Nobitex, what's that?
It's Iran's largest cryptocurrency exchange. So a very different kind of target, but strategically important, especially given international sanctions on Iran's formal banking sector.
Right, crypto can be a way around sanctions sometimes, so why target Nobitex?
Well, Predatory Sparrow accused it directly of financing terrorism and violating those international sanctions. They framed it as hitting a key node in illicit financial flows. So hitting them served both a disruptive and a messaging purpose.
Okay, so what happened there? Was data destroyed again?
This time it was different. Here, the information was extracted, and its potential location became a direct threat. Predatory Sparrow announced they threatened to publish Nobitex's source code and internal data within 24 hours. They said they'd dump it on the social media platform X.
Did they actually do it? Did the source code appear on X?
It's not entirely clear if the full source code dump happened publicly in a verifiable way. These things can be murky, but what was verifiable was the financial impact.
Money was stolen.
Yes. Blockchain investigators, people who can trace transactions on the public ledger, later confirmed that approximately $81.7 million in digital assets were stolen from Nobitex's wallets during that breach.
$81 million. Wow.
Yeah, a significant amount. This wasn't just symbolic, it was a direct financial hit. Hurt the exchange, hurt its customers, raised huge questions about their security.
So where's the location of the information there? Is it the potential source code leak on X or the stolen money?
It's kind of both, but the money is more concrete. While the source code could have ended up on X or some dark web forum, the money definitely changed location. You can trace it to some extent on the blockchain. It moved from Nobitex's control to the attacker's digital wallets. So this illustrates how digital assets themselves, cryptocurrency, become the information that is hacked and then moved. Its location changes from the exchange's coffers to wherever the attacker sent it, possibly through mixers to try and hide its trail.
Yeah.
The location is trackable, at least initially, on the blockchain itself.
Okay, so Israel or groups aligned with them have clearly shown some potent offensive cyber capabilities, major disruptions, significant financial theft. What about Iran? What are their verifiable cyber responses beyond that, likely fake Mossad story? Where can we see their digital impact?
Iran definitely has its own significant state-sponsored threat groups. They have distinct capabilities, sometimes more focused on espionage or psychological effects, maybe less on noisy public disruption like Predatory Sparrow sometimes engages in. But they've certainly carried out destructive attacks and espionage operations.
Can you give an example?
Sure. For instance, back in 2023, an Iranian hacking group claimed responsibility for hitting an Israeli hospital.
A hospital? What did they do?
They claimed they hacked in and stole sensitive patient data.
Oof. Patient records. That's highly personal.
Yeah.
So where did that information end up? Did they leak it publicly?
Likely not. The information here, the sensitive patient records, its value lies in its secrecy, typically.
Yeah.
Attackers would probably hold on to it. Why? Maybe for leverage against the hospital or individuals. Maybe to sell it on dark web forums. Patient data, unfortunately, has a market value. Or perhaps for intelligence gathering, identifying influential people, finding vulnerabilities.
So its location is hidden, controlled by the attackers.
Exactly. It's emphatically not publicly located for you or me to see. It would reside in a clandestine, controlled location on the attacker's servers, maybe passed to intelligence agencies. Its value isn't being kept secret, used strategically. It's not meant for public viewing unless the attackers decide a leak serves some specific purpose, like humiliation or sowing panic.
Okay. And beyond these direct attacks on external targets, what about Iran controlling information inside Iran, especially when things get tense? Where does that control happen, and how does it affect what Iranians themselves can see?
That's a crucial piece of the puzzle, connecting the external cyber conflict to internal information control. The Iranian government has shown it's willing to use a very drastic measure, literally shutting down the nation's internet,
Just pulling the plug?
pretty much, or severely throttling it, blocking specific services, making it unusable for most external communication. This isn't really cyber warfare against another country. It's an act of information control against its own population. It often happens during periods of internal unrest or sometimes in response to significant external cyber attacks.
And the official reason.
Oh, officials usually claim it's for network stability or national security, standard justifications. But the effect is clear.
Which is?
The location of information in that scenario becomes effectively nowhere for the average Iranian citizen. Access to foreign news websites, gone. International calls, restricted. Social media platforms used to organize or get outside information, blocked.
Wow, so they just cut people off from the outside world.
It's a very blunt but highly effective way to control the narrative. You control access to information itself. You prevent outside news, alternative viewpoints, maybe even evidence of government actions from being seen by your own people. You make the digital location of that information simply inaccessible. It's about maintaining a state-controlled version of reality, especially during crises.
Okay, so we have state actors like Israel and Iran doing everything from data destruction and theft to espionage and internet shutdowns. But you mentioned hacktivists earlier. They seem to make a lot of noise in these conflicts too. What have they been up to, and where does the information they generate, the leaks, the defacements, the threats actually show up? Where's its location?
Yeah, the hacktivists are a really active part of this digital ecosystem. It's not just the big state players. We've seen a swarm of hacktivist groups, apparently largely pro-Iran. One source mentioned over 60 distinct groups mobilizing.
60? Wow, what are they doing?
They're busy, engaging in widespread digital activism, you could call it, or vandalism, depending on your perspective. They're defacing websites, changing the homepage to display their message. They're knocking services offline, often using distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks to overwhelm service. And sometimes they're leaking stolen data.
What kind of data, and where does it leak?
It varies. It might be databases from smaller companies, user credentials, internal documents. The main goal seems to be scoring propaganda points, causing disruption, making headlines, showing they can hit targets in Israel or allied countries.
So where do you find this stuff? If you're looking, where is it located?
Typically, these leaks and claims appear on specific platforms chosen for maximum visibility and reach within their communities. You'll see it on underground hacking forums, maybe dedicated hacktivist websites they set up to brag about their exploits, but very often they use widely accessible social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter, or perhaps even more commonly for coordination and announcements, Telegram.
Telegram seems to pop up a lot.
It does. It's popular for its channel features and relative lack of content moderation compared to some other platforms. So, for example, the cybersecurity firm Radware, they observed nearly 30 DDoS attacks per day targeting Israel during one period. And the groups carrying out these attacks often announced them, boasted about them, right there on platforms like Telegram.
So the information is the attack itself, making sites unavailable, but also the claim of the attack located on these public platforms.
Exactly. The DDoS attack impacts information by making the legitimate site's information inaccessible. Its location changes from available to unavailable. Meanwhile, the hacktivists' information, their claim, their message, maybe a sample of stolen data, is deliberately placed on a public location like Telegram or X to be seen.
And it sounds like these groups aren't just focused on Iran versus Israel. They're aiming wider.
Absolutely. The conflict draws in sympathizers and activists globally, and some groups have broader agendas. For example, one group calling itself Mr. Hamza publicly announced coordinated campaigns targeting not just Israel, but also the United States, the United Kingdom. They used a specific hashtag, #OpUSAIsrael, on Telegram to organize.
So directly targeting perceived allies of Israel.
Clearly. And another group called Dinet issued a pretty direct warning. They said they'd launch cyber attacks against the U.S., specifically if America joined the war against Iran. And that warning, it was immediately amplified, spread rapidly across Telegram by lots of other sympathetic groups. It shows how interconnected this ecosystem is.
So the location for that kind of information, the threats, the coordination is very much these public or semi-public messaging platforms.
Yes. They act almost like virtual command centers or bulletin boards for these distributed, often ideologically motivated attacks, even if the actual cyber attack impacts network infrastructure in, say, the US or the UK, the location of the initial threat, the coordination, the boasting is often right out there on platforms like Telegram. And it's not insignificant. Besides Israel, the top targeted countries by these hacktivists included the U.S., Jordan, and the UK, hitting government sites, manufacturing, telecoms, a whole range. The information war here includes these public pronouncements aimed at psychological pressure and rallying support.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Real hacks destroying data, stealing funds, espionage keeping secrets hidden, hacktivists making noise on public platforms. But you mentioned earlier, and it feels like a huge part of this, the actual information war. Especially with AI getting so much better, where is this kind of hacked information, the stuff that's just completely made up, the fakes, the misleading narratives? Where is that located for people to see, and how is it messing with our heads?
This is where it gets really, really tricky. And it speaks directly to that desire to see information, because these techniques exploit our visual senses, our tendency to believe what we see, even if it's totally fake. AI-generated videos are just pouring fuel on the fire. They're making it incredibly hard for anyone, even experts sometimes, to tell what's real and what's not, especially in the heat of a braiding event.
Can you give some examples from the sources? What kind of fakes are we talking about?
Oh, the sources detail some really dramatic, quite convincing examples. Things like an AI-generated woman. She looks like a professional news reporter, sounds credible, and she's delivering this urgent report from what looks like a burning prison in Tehran.
Wow. But it was all fake.
Completely fake, generated by AI.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine seeing that pop up in your feed. It creates immediate panic, a false sense of chaos, spreads like wildfire.
Oh, okay. What else?
There's also been fake footage showing high-rise buildings in Tel Aviv, just reduced to rubble. Again, designed to look like the aftermath of a devastating attack. The goal, create fear, panic, maybe demoralize the population, make Israel seem vulnerable.
And military stuff, too.
Yeah, other fabricated visuals apparently depicted things like a downed Israeli military aircraft, trying to score propaganda points, create false narratives about battlefield successes or failures.
And these aren't just like one-off things that get quickly debunked and disappear, are they? It sounds like they're actually getting traction.
Oh, absolutely not. This isn't like some crudely Photoshopped image from 10 years ago. Some of these AI clips have racked up millions of views, millions, on major mainstream platforms. We're talking X, TikTok.
Millions on TikTok and X.
Yes. And it's not always just organic spread. Researchers like the team at Clemson University's Media Forensics Hub, these are people who specialize in tracking this stuff, they confirm that some of this content is actively being amplified, boosted, pushed out there on X by coordinated networks, probably bot farms or coordinated groups of users working together.
So it's manufactured and artificially promoted?
Correct. That AI-generated reporter outside Evan Prison, the Clemson researchers called that a perfect example of coordinated false information circulation. It's designed to get maximum reach, maximum impact before anyone has a chance to properly debunk it. So the location of this fake information, it's not hidden. It's right there in your feed, next to real news, next to cat videos, blurring the lines constantly. Millions of people are seeing it, absorbing it, maybe believing it.
Honestly, that's terrifying. How easy is it to make these things now? Does it still take, Kickstarter-level resources?
That's the scary part. Apparently not anymore. Hani Farid, he's a top expert in this field, from UC Berkeley, co-founded an AI detection startup. He pointed out how fast things have changed. He said maybe a year or two ago you could get a single image that was pretty photorealistic. Okay, impressive, but still static. But now, he says, quote, it's full-blown video with explosions, with what looks like handheld mobile device imaging.
So it looks like shaky phone footage.
Yeah.
More realistic.
Exactly. dynamic, action-packed video that convincingly mimics how real events are often captured and shared. And another expert, Darren Linville from that Clemson hub, he emphasized that AI tech makes creating this stuff cheaper, faster, and at greater scale for the bad actors.
Cheaper, faster, scalable. That's not a good combination.
Not at all. It means the barrier to entry for creating highly convincing fake video, fake audio, fake news reports has just plummeted. So the sheer volume of fake information out there is exploding. It just swamps our ability to verify everything. It's like a fire hose of fakes, a democratization of deception, as some have called it.
Okay, so beyond these super realistic AI videos, what other tricks are being pulled in this info war? Where else are these deceptions showing up?
Iran, specifically, seems to have launched really extensive, multi-pronged propaganda and deception efforts, according to our sources. We've seen things like fake emergency alerts.
Fake alerts, how does that work?
They send fraudulent text messages directly to Israeli citizens' phones. These aren't just random spam. They're carefully crafted to look like official alerts from, say, Israel's Home Front Command, the agency that issues real warnings.
So they spoof the sender ID.
Exactly, to make it look legitimate. And the messages spread panic. They might contain false reports of, say, sudden fuel shortages or warnings about disruptions to water supplies or even tip-offs about imminent terror attacks that aren't real.
Wow, so the location of that fake information is literally landing in people's pockets on their phone screens, disguised as an official warning.
Precisely. It weaponizes trust in official channels to sow fear, confusion, maybe even get people to take actions that cause real disruption, like panic buying fuel. It's psychological manipulation delivered via SMS.
As social media, it's not just the AI videos, right? You mentioned coordinated networks. Iran seems to have a more established system for that, too.
Correct. Social media remains a absolutely critical battleground. Iran is expected, based on past activity and current capabilities, to heavily use its well-developed network of fake social media personas and bots.
Fake accounts, basically.
Yeah, but increasingly sophisticated ones. Many now use AI-generated profile photos. These aren't real people, but their profile pics look incredibly realistic, unique, not easily identifiable as stock photos or stolen images. This makes the fake accounts harder to spot, seem more trustworthy.
And what do these fake accounts do?
They pose as ordinary citizens, sometimes even as Israelis who are critical of their own government, to make the propaganda seem more authentic, less like foreign interference. And they push pro-Iran narratives, spread specific talking points, attack critics, amplify disinformation all across platforms like X and Telegram.
So the location of that influence campaign is woven right into your social media feed, trying to blend in.
Exactly. Trying to subtly, or sometimes not so subtly, sway your opinion, make you doubt official sources, promote a specific agenda. These aren't just random trolls. Sources suggest Iran's IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, has dedicated psychological operations units managing these cyber armies, creating legions of these fake online characters specifically to manipulate public discourse. It's systematic.
And deepfakes. You mentioned the AI-generated news anchor. That wasn't just a hypothetical, right? That actually happened.
Absolutely. Deepfakes are not a future threat. They are here now, and they've been deployed. That incident in late 2023 is a stark warning. Iranian hackers, likely that IRGC-linked group called Cotton Sandstorm, they hijacked streaming TV services in the UAE, and they broadcast a deepfake newscast, fully fabricated anchor generated by AI, delivering Tehran's propaganda about the Gaza war directly onto people's TV screens.
That's chilling, taking over a broadcast feed with a fake anchor.
It really is. It showed the capability and the willingness to deploy deepfakes at scale, bypassing internet filters and hitting people directly through a medium they often trust. So experts are now on high alert for similar tactics in the current conflict. Imagine seeing a deepfake video of, say, a captured Israeli general appearing to surrender, or incredibly graphic but completely fabricated footage of carnage designed purely to inflame outrage and hatred.
And that could spread like crazy on social media before anyone debunks it.
Instantly, across WhatsApp, Telegram, X, TikTok. It could shape public opinion, maybe even trigger real-world reactions before the truth has a chance to put its boots on. The battle is over, what you perceive is real, and it's happening in real time.
So with this absolute flood, this fire hose, as you called it, of fake information, fake videos, fake alerts, fake personas, what are the platforms like TikTok and X actually doing about it? Are they managing to police this stuff? Can they control the location of these falsehoods? Or is it just too much?
Well, they're trying. They invest huge amounts of money and resources into content moderation, AI detection tools, human review teams. It's not like they're doing nothing. TikTok, for example, they've stated publicly their policies don't allow harmful misinformation or AI-generated content that fakes authoritative sources, like that fake reporter or crisis events. And they say they've removed some of these videos.
Okay, so some removals. What about X?
X often points to its community notes feature. That's the system where users can add context or fact checks to potentially misleading posts. It's kind of crowdsourced approach to verification. Meta, Facebook and Instagram, they also have policies against manipulated media and are developing their own AI detection tools.
But is it working? Is it enough?
Honestly, it's an incredibly tough, constant uphill battle. Think about the sheer volume of content being uploaded every second. Think about how fast AI generation tools are improving, making fakes harder to detect. Think about the speed at which this stuff spreads, often amplified by bots or coordinated campaigns. The platforms are always playing catch-up.
So it's like a leaky dam. They plug one hole, another one springs open.
It's a good analogy. They take down one video, 10 more pop up. They identify one bot network, another one adapts its tactics. The sheer scale and speed make it a formidable challenge. So while they are making efforts, the digital fog of war remains incredibly thick. Finding reliable information, verifying what you see, it's just getting harder and harder for the average person.
Okay, this is clearly a super complex landscape. The lines are blurred. The very idea of information feels like it's under attack. So for you listening, trying to make sense of it all, what does this mean for actually figuring out where reliable information is located, especially when manipulation is just constant? And what are the ripple effects beyond just Iran and Israel?
Well, the spillover potential is serious. This isn't just happening over there. U.S. agencies, we're talking CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the FBI, the NSA, they've put out joint warnings. They're seeing rising Iranian cyber attacks targeting U.S. defense contractors, targeting OT networks.
OT? What's that again?
Operational technology. These are the systems that control physical processes. Think electrical grids, water treatment plants, manufacturing lines, pipelines, stuff you really don't want hackers messing with.
Right. Critical infrastructure.
Exactly. Now, the good news is there's no public evidence yet of a major coordinated campaign successfully disrupting U.S. critical infrastructure on a wide scale. But the warnings are clear. Companies in the defense industrial base, especially those with ties to Israeli firms, are at much higher risk.
So the information here isn't something you'd see leaked online.
No, absolutely not. This isn't about data being hacked and then located on some public website for you to view. This is about highly sensitive intelligence that government agencies are trying to protect, or operational data within secure industrial control systems. The location is inside these protected networks, and the threat is that attackers could get in and cause real physical damage or steal vital secrets. The potential impact is huge, even if the hacked data itself never sees the light of day publicly.
And a lot of the information gathered in these state-level cyber conflicts, the real espionage stuff, it's meant to be kept secret, right? Its location is deliberately hidden.
Precisely. We talked about Iranian cyber forces using their skills for psychological impact, like the disinformation. But a huge part of their activity, historically and currently, is classic cyber espionage, targeting leaders, officials, dissidents, and conducting surveillance, often helped by hacking into sectors like travel agencies, hotels, telecom companies, places that handle lots of personal data and movement information.
So they can track people.
Potentially, yes. This kind of information, personal data used to identify and physically track persons of interest, sensitive government communications, maybe proprietary corporate plans, it's collected and kept secret. Its location is deep inside private databases controlled by the attackers or within secure intelligence agency networks. It is absolutely not meant to be publicly seen.
Its value is in its secrecy.
Exactly. Its value lies in that secrecy, allowing for covert operations, maybe future blackmail attempts, gaining strategic advantage. If that kind of information does become public, it's usually because the attackers made a deliberate choice to leak it, probably for maximum disruption, embarrassment, or to achieve a specific political goal. It's not about transparency. It's another form of attack.
Okay. So, given this incredibly complex, multi-layered, often deceptive digital world, what's the actual takeaway? What's the practical advice for us, for you listening, trying to stay informed, stay safe, keep our heads clear in this digital fog?
It sounds almost too simple, but one of the most crucial pieces of advice comes from experts like Hanny Fried. He basically says, stop getting your news from social media, particularly on breaking events like this.
Just stop. Cold turkey.
Or at least don't make it your primary source, especially when things are happening fast and emotions are high. Instead, make a conscious effort to rely on established, credible news organizations, the ones with editorial standards, fact-checking processes, a history of correcting errors, journalistic integrity. It takes more effort, yes, but it's crucial for getting a less distorted picture.
Okay, so be critical about sources. What else? On a practical security level.
Just the basics, but they matter more than ever. Foundational security hygiene. Use strong, unique passwords for everything. Don't reuse passwords. Enable multi-factor authentication, MFA, wherever you can. That second layer of protection is huge. Keep your software updated. Those patches often fix vulnerabilities hackers exploit.
And for businesses or organizations.
Same basics, plus training employees. People are often the weakest link. Train them to spot phishing emails, social engineering tricks, and be prepared. Have a plan for how you'll validate and respond if someone claims you've been breached or your data leaked. Because, as we've seen, threat actors often make false claims or exaggerate real breaches just to cause embarrassment, spread fear, or push their narrative. Don't automatically believe the claim, even if it looks scary.
So verify, 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 and be skeptical.
Skepticism is your friend in this environment. Healthy skepticism. Question what you see, especially if it triggers a strong emotional reaction. Ask where it came from. Look for corroboration from reliable sources. That's your first line of defense against manipulation.
Right. It's clear this whole situation, this digital fog, it's not going away anytime soon. It's going to require constant vigilance, constant adaptation from all of us.
Unfortunately, yes. It's the new normal.
What a journey we've been on. Through this absolute maze of cyber warfare, information ops. I mean, we started with these huge, sensational claims of massive intelligence breaches, right? The Mossad hack. But digging in, it seems pretty clear that was mostly, maybe entirely, part of a sophisticated disinformation campaign designed to mislead, not inform. Its location was the propaganda network.
Right, a weaponized narrative.
Then we looked at the verifiable attacks. Predatory Sparrow hitting bank SEPA, destroying data, hitting Novatex, stealing millions in crypto, Iranian groups hitting hospitals, stealing patient records. There, the location of the information or its absence had direct, tangible impacts, financial loss, service disruption, potential for future harm.
Real consequences.
And we dove into the increasingly pervasive use of AI. Those fake reporters, fabricated scenes of destruction, all designed to sow confusion, create panic, shape what you believe, and where is that located? Right there on your social media feeds, X, TikTok amplified by bots, reaching millions.
Yeah. So when you ask that initial question, where is this information Iran hacked located, the people want to see it, the answer, as we've seen, is just, it's complicated. It's rarely simple.
Right.
Sometimes the answer is, it's nowhere real. It's a fabrication, a ghost story created for psychological effect, existing only in unreliable corners of the web and the minds it influences. Other times, yeah, maybe snippets are on public platforms like X or Telegram, but they're often misleading, doctored, totally out of context.
Yeah.
The real location being targeted is your perception.
And then the truly sensitive stuff.
That's usually kept hidden, held deep within compromised networks by the attackers or locked away in private intelligence databases, not meant for public eyes. So this constant manipulation, it just hammers home the point. Searching for truth today isn't just about finding information. It's fundamentally about critically evaluating its source, its intent, its context, its very nature. Is it real? Is it fake? Is it somewhere in between?
It really feels like the lines between what's real and what's fabricated are just getting blurrier and blurrier in this digital conflict, and that makes our own discernment, our ability to think critically, more vital than ever. This deep dive, I think, really shows that in modern warfare, the fight isn't just for land or resources anymore. It's increasingly a battle for your mind, for your perception, for your trust.
Well, good.
So the question we leave you with is, how will you navigate this incredibly complex, often deceptive information landscape? What steps will you take to try and ensure that what you see, what you consume online, actually reflects reality? We really encourage you, keep questioning, keep digging, and always, always keep seeking out those reliable sources. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thanks for tuning into the Despicable Maine Deep Dive podcast. Remember, the United States has been hijacked, so soon living in the United States will be theft of your life. And as always, living in Maine is theft of your life. Every day you are there is just another day stolen.